Badlands, explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the Republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians. Russian.
Russia, Russia, Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots, their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. Bernie Bright, how are you doing, sir?
Good. I informed John before the show my voice was 80% recovered, which means it will decline by the time we're at our second segment.
I'm looking forward to it, if I'm being totally honest. I hope you completely lose it here shortly.
But yeah, and I was sick going into GART, so if I got anybody sick there, then that's just part of the op. But yeah, it was great. It's a great reason to lose your voice going to GART.
I would agree with that. You know, the last GART we did, where was that at? Myrtle Beach.
My goodness,
Everybody was sick either before or after. I haven't heard a lot of news about ailments going around, so that's a good sign. But dude, GART was epic.
It was awesome.
Are you distracted?
Mrs. Bright is texting me, and it's super unprofessional. I've got the baby cam right here, Mrs. Bright.
You know, it's not unprofessional of her to text you. It's unprofessional of you to respond to the text during a show. That's
if you want to talk to me about personal stuff, about our marriage or parenting, you can do it in the Badlands chat with everybody else.
You know what, Miss Bright? You can text me about your personal marriage stuff. I can help. I can give advice. But anyway, no, GART was amazing. If we're allowed to, are we good to continue, or do you need a break?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
I was just making sure there wasn't an emergency.
I'm just kidding, bro. Yeah, GART was amazing. They keep getting better. I don't know how, but they do. That's all I gotta say about that, I guess.
It was sweet. And man, I gotta start writing down people's names who not that people have to give us gifts, but when you do, I always feel bad because I don't remember everybody that does or save all the cards and everything, but there's very generous people. I'll try to get those names of people that gave us some gifts and everything. We really appreciate that.
You don't save the cards?
No, I save the cards. I meant sometimes people will give me a physical gift, and then I don't remember who that is, or something like that. But it's chaos there in a good way, but it's hard to keep track of stuff.
Yeah, I really value when people give me things, and so I always make sure that I write down who gave it to me and send thank yous and
just on the spot.
No,
yep.
Just
with a regular
it
pen
is really
by
difficult.
Hand or an auto pen.
Yeah, we'll talk about the auto pen stuff. Don't get ahead of us. No, it was Vegas was something different. Like, I didn't know what to expect with this conference, even though I've spoken at this venue before. But it's just like Vegas. Like, you kind of worry about the riffraff, and I mean, there was minimal riffraff, but because there wasn't a casino, it was a perfect setup. We got to go back to that place again.
Yeah, and we've heard that the owner of the venue is quite the based gentleman who's hosted a lot of based events there. So obviously, like you said, you've been there before, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. This Bulldog in the chat says John needs to know that he never sounds like he's kidding. Just saying, that's what makes the jokes funny. It's when it always sounds serious.
Delivery.
It's dry sarcasm.
Going in dry. Yeah,
it
was great stuff. Glad I made it there. It was exhausting, but it was good stuff. And I wasn't sure what to expect either with Vegas. Like, I think it's a good point you bring up. I didn't even think about the casino thing, but the fact that there wasn't slot machines, I kind of pictured us being in an event space and then right down the hallway there being a whole casino, but it's probably for the best that was not the case. And then if anybody, I don't know how much of it is leaking out beyond the GART world, but Ghost just became an incredible meme. And shout out to whoever was in the Telegram chat putting those things together, because they're good. They're not shoddy memes. Those are
that was Cam Cooksey's girl, Jackie.
Great, Jackie. Those are quality memes. What a pose to fit perfectly into so many different scenarios.
Yeah. So for those who didn't know, Ghost had a great time, probably a greater time than anybody else. And you know what? I might have the picture, the original picture. Let me put this in here. Yeah, Ghost, if you're in the chat, buddy, this is what you get for this is
you're on company dime. The memes spread, man.
Yep. That's the company dime. We do not hold back on giving you shit for the rest of your life. Here's the original picture. So after a night of karaoke in which he killed it, absolutely killed it. Yep. He was just tired. He knew he needed to rest up for the next day of panels, and was like, I'm having so much fun with these fellow Badlanders. I just don't want to leave quite yet, so I'm just going to take a quick nap right on this lady's shoulder, and then we'll keep partying, and I'll go to bed later. And that's what we did, and now it's like the best meme of all time.
I resisted. Okay. I was invited to out to shenanigans like we all were, and I was good. I was pretty good this time. Next time, we'll see. But this time, I was good.
I was not out whenever that happened. That was like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
But I do plan on going to Vegas for. Do you see G Money's going to speak at the Bitcoin conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be there.
I may be there too. We'll see.
Okay, well, never mind. Now I'm not going. I take it back.
Well, I was gonna say, shout out to G Money though. He's like the veteran party animal, because that guy will go out, do all manner of shenanigans, and he just walks into a panel with the exact same energy that he.
You weren't even there. You weren't even there when he did it, because of Saturday night. Like, I mean, whatever happened Friday night, I don't know if he was there. But Saturday night is the night that they went out to like 7 a.m. and he walked in at 9 for his panel, just like ready to roll. You couldn't tell like he was any different, because he wasn't. That was incredible.
It's the
you had left by then.
Yeah,
right?
I left. Well, I was leaving that morning, and my Uber got a flat tire on the way to the airport. So that was
no way.
Weird.
That is weird. But no, it was.
And she just kept trying to drive it, and then it was getting worse and worse. And I was like, "You got to stop! Like you can't just keep doing this."
Yeah. Anyway, Gart was awesome. Next one's coming up soon, very soon. Tickets are going out to ticket holders from the last event very soon. Like, we're just finally. I can't talk. I haven't been able to talk like all day long. I don't know what my problem is. But anyway, ticket prices are being finalized. We're coming up with some more options to make it more accessible. Those will be sent out soon this week and then opened up to the public very soon. So stay tuned. The East Coasters better show up, because
I've been saying the same thing.
Because the West Coasters, I don't know if they're going to make it. They're like, it's too far. I don't know if I can make that one. So
we have a lot of Southeast Coasters. The Southeast Coasters have shown up huge, the hugest of anybody. But we've gotten a lot of noise from the Northeasterners in my neck of the woods.
I don't think we've seen any noise from there. Have we?
No, in terms of telling us to go to Boston and New England and everything. I get a lot of it just because I'm obviously here.
I hope you're right.
Made a lot of noise, and they better show up. But
it would be kind of funny if we get like 20 people that want to come to the one that you had to do it in Massachusetts. So we'll see what happens. Yep. But yeah, okay. Well, we do have lots to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about
what happened to your what's going on with your hand.
Oh, I don't know. This happened on the morning show. I think my blue pen broke, or know what it probably is. It's Jordan's methylene blue stuff that I've been taking.
Comms?
What was that?
Pen comms?
Well, yeah, maybe, but I'm pretty sure it was this stuff. Because on the show, I had no idea what happened. I thought I was like, did my pen explode? But I didn't see any ink anywhere. But then I remembered I did take this, and this always turns my tongue like super blue, and it never goes away. I was like, yeah, it must be from that. So whatever. Anyway, blue, ignore the blue, but back the blue, but then ignore it on my hand. Right. We got lots to talk about. There's a Devo related item I really want to cover right off the bat, having to do with Joe Biden, and I think we'll have a pretty good discussion on that topic. We're going to talk about some economic stuff, from shutdown to tariff policies to Thomas Massey and what's going on there. That'll be fun. We're also going to get into the Ukraine situation and the peace deals and kind of explore that. And I think those will be plenty of topics to carry us for a few hours, but we'll see what happens. But first up, before we do any of that, got to get a quick word from the sponsors of tonight's show. And first up, we got CB Distillery. CB Distillery's VIP sale is on. For a few days only, you can save up to 50% on everything with code RUMBLE. If better sleep, less stress, and pain relief after exercise sounds good to you, you need to hear about CBD from CB Distillery. They have plant-based solutions for just about everything: sleep, stress, mood, focus, even pain after exercise, all made with high-quality, clean ingredients. They even have CBD for pets. Many of you are already feeling the difference, especially with their sleep products. Personally, that's mine as well. Look, if you're still tossing and turning at night or struggling with another health concern, make the change to CB Distillery. Now's your chance to save big with code RUMBLE, RUMBLE. But this deal won't be around long, so don't wait. Visit cbdistillery.com and enter code RUMBLE to save up to 50% on everything. That's cbdistillery.com, code RUMBLE. Not available in Idaho, Iowa, and South Dakota, which makes 0 sense. We're in America. Should be able to buy it.
Not bring it. Can you bring it to those? Can you transport it across state lines?
I don't know. I don't know what the border policy is on CBD, but South Dakota, like they have a, it just doesn't make any sense. Whatever. We also have one more sponsor, and very excited about this company. They're new to us. I think this is their first week advertising, maybe second. It's Rattlesnake Meats. And the reason I love this so much is because they actually sent me some product before they came on, and
what the hell?
It was amazing. You guys got to stop funding the cartel. I'm not talking about the cartels at the southern border or the CBD cartels in South Dakota. I'm talking about the 4 globalist multinational meat packers that control 85% of America's beef supply. Their beef, who knows where it's really raised. There's a better way. Buy directly from an American rancher. At Rattlesnake Meat Company, they deliver premium 21-day aged American beef straight from the ranch to your door. No mRNA, no added hormones, no pink slime, no meat glue, just real beef, born, raised, and processed in Kansas. Every dollar you spend is a vote. Vote for an American rancher. Vote against the globalist agenda. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/meat and use promo code BADLANDS20 for $20 off to take back control of your beef. That's badlandsmedia.tv/meat, MEAT, promo code BADLANDS20, and tell the beef cartel, don't tread on me. Oh, it was so good, dude.
Beef cartel.
Yeah, I love that phrase. And you can, like, beef and steak doesn't even taste the same after having like actual, fresh, unprocessed, like none of the BS in there.
I am Mrs. Brian and I are we have not had rattlesnake meats, but we are definitely snobs when it comes to meat now because I've been getting grass fed for a couple of years now, and you don't notice it while you're having it continuously, but then right when you have some regular ass beef at somebody's house, some normie's house, it tastes oily. It's got that like oily kind of gristly, chewy flavor to it. No wonder I actually did not like steak when I was a kid, but it's because I was eating some Irish ass steak.
You're eating Irish ass?
Yeah, that too, but also steak.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the chat wants to know what is ass beef? It's not like chuck roast or something.
Dinner.
Which part of the cow is the butt, the ass?
The haunches.
No, like what is the meat
but
that
the New
they
England
use?
Patriots just signed a big beefy defensive tackle, all beef defensive tackle.
Who's that?
Who just won the Super Bowl? What the hell was his name? Malik Williams or something? You can see I'm an expert in this guy.
Dude, the Vikings, like I'm not following them like religiously, but I have updates on my phone because I follow them on ESPN or something. So anytime something Vikings related comes through, and I thought we had no cap room left. Sorry, this is totally unrelated to anything Devolution or the show, but I thought we had no cap space. And I've seen like 10 deals in a row where it's like 6 years, $80 million. I'm like, where are they coming up with this money?
There's a local Boston sports radio guy, Mike Felger, and he's actually from your neck of the woods. I think he's from like Wisconsin or something. But he's notorious for saying that the cap is fake. That's his whole thing, because in the NFL they just like change the terms and do bonuses and deferments.
We restructured the contract and turned it into a bonus, and now we have $500 million in cap room. It's like, okay, what does that even mean?
At least baseball just admits the cap's fake.
Yeah. Well, it's not that there's just no cap. They can just do whatever the hell they want. Anyway, well, let's get to it. And this should be a fun one to start off with, because on this show and many shows in this network, we've talked a lot about how, there might be a chance that Joe Biden was illegitimate and maybe he wasn't in control fully these last 4 years. And now people are starting to ask some questions. People like in the public are like, hey, is it okay that somebody was using an automatic signature to sign everything that Joe Biden did his entire 4 years? And this is the story, like all the pardons he was doing, a lot of the executive orders he was doing, it was all autopen. He wasn't signing it. They're all exactly the same.
Or he could be preternaturally gifted at signing things.
That is the other option.
Yeah.
That is the other option. And I mean, I'm skeptical of that option a little bit. But it is an option. But when you look at this, okay, and how now there's questions being asked, like, what does this mean? Does this mean everything that he signed can be undone because he didn't actually sign it? And this actually reminded me of this Mike Johnson video from like, God, this had to be back in January. I'm pretty sure we talked about this on a Saturday Power at one point, but take a listen.
Real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looked at me stunned and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. Real quick.
And so I just thought it was funny. Like in the clip, he goes on and talks about how, oh no, I signed something else like that had to do with gas. And maybe he did sign something and he thought it had to do with something else. But he was like straight up denying having signed a document, but the document existed. It was a real executive order and it did the thing that Mike Johnson was saying it was doing. And here we are. Like people are asking questions. They're talking about the legitimacy of Joe Biden. And that is cool. I think that's, it's good. The more people that question that, the better. But I do see one aspect of this that is potentially a problem. And we just need to make sure that we're constantly talking about this. Joe Biden's presidency is not illegitimate because they auto-signed executive orders and all these things. Joe Biden's presidency is illegitimate because he was not legitimately elected. They stole the election in 2020. And I don't think they fully got away with it. Obviously, we think something bigger going on behind the scenes with devolution. But that's the angle we want to approach. We don't want to try to delegitimize Biden because he didn't actually sign these documents. That's not how we delegitimize the actions he took while he was in office. We delegitimize them by going after the 2020 election.
Yeah, and I think Chris has some good commentary on this macro in general, where not specifically about the pen situation, but the danger to always be on the lookout for the danger of our messaging as a community being subverted. It's possible that what we're looking at is like timeline delayed awakening and people asking questions, but I mean the Our Boy Blue stuff, like the Joe Biden presidency, we're not going to take victory laps about that being called into question right now in terms of its legitimacy on any level, because it was so obvious. We were talking about this for years, even if you were not following devolution, etc. It was such a clownish administration to begin with that everyone believed, like even normies on the left believed that he was not in control of the administration. So to pass this kind of thing off like it's some seismic revelation, for starters, is not enough. And then more to what Chris talks about a lot and what you just mentioned, there's also a potential threat in it of saying, if we then accept that as the reason, then is it an attempt to stop there, right? Like, okay, you got enough, like just stop there, and we don't have to look any further down the line, right? So it's just first thing that popped into my head on this. You could make so many analogs to history with this, but the wars in the Middle East. If you go back to 2001 and that era, what was the impetus for us going over into the Middle East? It was WMDs, right? Weapons of mass destruction. That was the public narrative for a war declaration over there and get the military involved, right? Even normies understand and understood within a matter of months or years that was a false narrative, that it was a mistake, right? Now, did everybody in the US figuring out that WMDs was a psyop, was that an awakening? And I would say not at all, because what it did was it gave Americans the ability to stop there and say, okay, the subversion of that era was not 9/11, it was the fake weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East. So that's why it was actually more damaging to the truth to buy wholly into the Colin Powell satellite images over Iraq or Afghanistan, whichever one it was at the time. I think Afghanistan. It stops normies from going further and going, man, who actually perpetrated 9/11, which was actually ground zero of all this stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think like more specific to kind of this, like using basically what you said there, who would like be totally okay with them delegitimizing Biden based on these signatures? Like not delegitimizing him, but delegitimizing all the actions he took. If we don't go as far back as the election, it would be the establishment, the people who want the elections, right?
Exactly.
Like they would totally accept that trade-off. Like, okay, you can delegitimize everything he did based on these auto-signed signatures and whatever. Let's just move on. And then we just move on as a country, unified, all these things. Trump won. He's in there now. Be grateful. Elections are legitimate again. Let's all move forward holding hands and singing songs. But that's not okay. And I don't think Trump's going to allow that to happen. I really don't. But I'm still yet to see any actual movement from Trump, other than they did look into some things at CISA, and they may have cut some people, but you really haven't heard any movement on what we're going to do to address the elections. Trump's talked about it a lot, I know, and that was like step one. Okay, at least it's still top of mind for him. Anytime it gets brought up, he talks about how fake our elections are. We got to address 2020, and it's got to be soon. It's got to be before the midterms. It has to be. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I thought that about the 2022 midterms. It doesn't have to be, but I mean, sooner the better. Yeah,
I mean, and I think people have realized at this point, and much of our audience thinks the same way, that when we look at a deployment like the autopens deployment, we very rarely talk about it on the level that it's being discussed. Like, we don't usually talk about it on its merits, because to John's point, that's not the threat. That's not the threat we're assessing here. And what it looks like now, again, you can think that it's an awakening type of moment, but it does look to me like an attempt at sort of soft subversion. It seems like overall, on a few different levels, this isn't the first time they're doing this, by the way. Several months ago, you had was it the Wall Street Journal or the New York? I think it was the Wall Street Journal, I think, that did that big op-ed talking about how, like, we knew how cognitively impaired Biden was for a long time, and we covered for him, and this is our apology tour, right? So that was the mea culpa. And what that is it's the same thing. It's a different deployment in the same overall strategy. And that strategy is to call into question the Biden administration using a Manchurian candidate template, which is not what happened there. And there's even a lot of MAGA who are willing to accept the Manchurian candidate. A Manchurian candidate, to John's point, is elected, but then is working on behalf of a foreign power or an adversary to the United States, which we absolutely would consider the deep state. But it is not somebody who wins a fake election. That's a completely different thing.
Yeah, speaking of fake elections, Gavin Newsom just had Steve Bannon on his podcast. I mean, Charlie Kirk a little bit ago, but Steve Bannon was on YouTube and had Bannon on, and he allowed Bannon to talk about election fraud in 2020. And both Charlie Kirk and Tim Pool did not ever do that. Like, think about that for a second. Tim Pool and Charlie Kirk would not allow Bannon to talk about election fraud, but Gavin Newsom did. What does that tell you? That's insane.
That's absolutely devastating to those guys.
Yeah. But also, it's like Gavin Newsom is clearly trying to like set himself up for a presidential run here in 2028. Like, he's trying to bridge some gaps and be. I mean, that's got to be what he's doing here. It makes no other sense otherwise. But
well, that'll be the third scoop term Trump can go against Newsom. He'd be a fun one to see against Trump.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't think Trump's going to run again.
Yeah, I know. I don't actually think he will.
Maybe not.
But
I don't know.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean,
that's a little ways down the
I didn't
road.
see that podcast yet, or has that one even come out yet?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. I didn't watch it, but people were posting about it. I think Jack Posovic's like, Bannon's on with Gavin Newsom right now talking about election fraud. I was like, that's hysterical, because Tim Pool wouldn't let him do that. Why would Gavin Newsom?
Yep. Well, those are the based and red-pilled influencer class.
Yeah, super funny.
And the type of people, to your point, that are probably wall-to-wall coverage of Joe Biden being illegitimate because he wasn't signing executive orders.
Yeah, right.
They're all over this one.
It's crazy, man. But anyway, yeah. So I just want to mention that was a pretty Devo adjacent story, the autopen thing. I feel like we were talking about that stuff in our movement a long time ago. Like people are always looking at the signatures, like, oh, is Jill Biden signing these things or whatever? I mean, maybe that was her signature because I feel like it's different from Joe Biden's original one. But yeah, they just used one and used them on all. And if they keep pulling on this thread, which I hope they do, I mean, it seems like that's going to be the case because I do think they're going to try to take that angle where they avoid the election part of it, but delegitimize everything else. If they keep pulling on this thread, like, and get to the bottom of, did he actually do anything while he was president, and who was the one that was putting the stuff in there? Like, what if they do find out, what if Obama was running his third term from the basement or whatever? It could get pretty interesting. It could be a good exposure, but I don't know if it'll get that far.
To that point too, I'm always interested in what narrative or what sort of path Trump takes when it comes to addressing these sorts of things, because while he is talking about how the election system is fake, etc., and dropping that baseline foundational signal that we want, he will also ride a lot of these other storylines. And Chris talks about this, right? Like the drafting idea, if he finds it useful to do so. And Trump has long made references to Biden in the basement when it comes to, Obama in the basement when it comes to Joe Biden. Now, we know that he knows that Joe Biden didn't win the election and that that's actually the signal. But I think Trump knows, and we're seeing as proof positive in this deployment here, that normies, even normie MAGA, are much more ready and willing to accept the Manchurian candidate template than the our whole system is fake template. And if, it's a big if, it's what you said this a few minutes ago in terms of, I do believe and hope, and we're going to hold their feet to the fire of making sure we do get election fraud exposure, et cetera, on a national level. But if this is something that Trump rides on the way to the public mandate to do that, then that's okay, and I can see the logic in it. If he starts off by saying, hey, at the very least, we can all agree that this guy was not acting as your president, he can then go to the next step of saying, now let's look at the election that installed him in the first place.
Yeah. And honestly, the level of treason that this whole thing was, I mean, and it goes so deep. It goes all the way back to 2016 and all those things. But to think of the concept of a group of people, sorry, I hear my son coughing. Gosh, I hope he doesn't wake up. He lost his first 2 teeth, my son, on the same day, like his bottom teeth, like the same day, both out. And ever since, he's like been almost like, he's just been like in pain and suffering, and I feel bad for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wakes up. But anyway, I don't remember what I was going to say. Lost my train of thought.
Trump election system.
Yeah.
Has been treason. You were saying the level of treason.
Oh, the level of treason involved. Like the concept of people, a group of people running the country, which is what people have been saying. We've been saying that for a long time, right? We have a different angle on it, but even Trump himself has been like, there's this committee of people running the country.
Right.
And like, you just have like a figurehead there. And that's like typically how it's been going back decades, right? You just have a figurehead who gets elected, but there's like this deep state that's kind of running the whole thing. This is a much more like tangible version of that actually happening, and a great way to explain that story on a deeper level to a lot of people. Right,
because Joe Biden, we've discussed this before, but one of the reasons that I like the Our Boy Blue theory, but even if you don't accept that, you also have pointed out, even if you don't believe in full control over Joe Biden, you've believed that Trump did want him to be president and sort of provoked that and baited that. And the key question has always been why, right? And one of the things, among many, one of the things that we've theorized for a long time is Joe Biden, even within the deep state establishment, was notorious for having his hands in so many cookie jars. And I think the key is not being very nuanced or skilled at the sort of criminality that some of these other figures were really good at, right? Like he's sort of this node that connects a lot of different webs. So to your point about the treason on display, it's the domino effect of starting with the Biden administration. It leads to everything else. One leads to another, leads to another, leads to the next, right? And that's that goes back to the Obama administration. It's going to go back before that, and I think that's obviously what's been going on forever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But anyway, let's go on to this next topic, the financial one. This should be a fun one. I know. We've been saying this is going to be the 20th show we've probably done now, because we've approached this kind of situation about 20 times now, where we're like, hey guys, we might actually see a shutdown this time. This is the first time. This is the first time. I mean, yeah, we've all invited you onto the rug for every one of these shutdowns, and the rug has been pulled from under us. Although I feel like we got better as we went. Like,
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen. They're probably going to come to a last minute agreement. But things are interesting more interesting this time around, because Schumer is pretty much saying, this is on Trump. We're not going to agree to this, whatever. It's the only leverage the Democrats have. The House got sent home for break. They're not even there. So if it doesn't pass in the Senate, they're not going to be able to rework anything. I'm going to say it. I don't care if it gets jinxed. It doesn't matter. I don't think I'm going to be able to jinx it. Chuck Schumer's not watching the show and being like, oh, they said it, so now we're going to vote for it. Never mind. It just really does seem like this has been the plan for Doge, since this term started, and how they've set this whole thing up. It's just way too interesting. And I really feel like I'm not standing firmly on the rug. I'm not on the rug. I'm next to the rug, a rug adjacent. And I'm like, I don't know if this rug is actually going to be pulled. I think we might get to watch this rug get vacuumed and cleaned up for us, and then we can all step onto the rug together, and it's not going to go anywhere.
I am playing The Floor is Lava, and all of the rugs are on the floor, and I'm really good at The Floor is Lava.
I doubt it.
So I'm gonna watch John sort of tiptoe onto the rug, see what happens, and then declare victory when I jump onto it.
That's more like you.
As it's cooling down.
Yeah.
No, the reason if this was to be the time that the rug stays put, the context around it is what's fascinating from an economic perspective. And I was saying to John before the show, I don't always look at every single thing. Sorry.
Don't go into the tariff stuff yet. Don't go into the tariff stuff yet, because I want to talk more about the shutdown first, because the narratives around the shutdown itself and how it's set up this time is, I think we should talk about that before we get into the broader scale economic stuff, and we should talk about the Massey stuff before that too. Right. And why on
a macro, I just meant, I think a government shutdown, if it's happening parallel to some of the other stuff we're going to talk about, this is also why the timing would be good.
Yeah, exactly. So save that for then. So the way they set up Doge, and I've been talking about this on the Daily Herald, I've talked about it on here a little bit too. This is the first time, pretty much ever, or at least ever since we've been talking about this, the shutdowns, where I feel like we have an actual opportunity to, what is the point of Doge, right? It's the Department of Government Efficiency. They say that they're going into all these agencies. They're finding the waste, fraud, and abuse. And Trump has done his best to get them into pretty much every agency, as far as I can tell. And so they've done their, whatever they're doing. They probably already knew ahead of time what is wasteful spending or whatnot. But the first or second week of Trump getting into office, they went after the Treasury. And there's this huge back and forth. There's been legal battles. But one of the guys that got fired is the guy who, or I guess he resigned, is the guy who was in charge of deciding what bills get paid during a shutdown. That's oddly specific. And that battle was oddly specific. And there's articles, I have a couple clips on Twitter about this, and it almost seems too good to be true, because that's exactly where the situation was. We were talking about that zero-based budgeting.
Zero-based accounting, yeah.
Zero-based budgeting. And it was on my February 4th Daily Herald show, where we went through this thread on zero-based budgeting, and then went into this Treasury fight, and how it's perfectly outlined for, if the government shuts down, Doge is going to be the ones deciding what bills get paid. And if you're looking at the most efficient way to make things the most efficient, it's with the shutdown, because they will be able to tell everybody which agencies we don't need, because those things won't be funded. And it's like we're going to be sitting here pretty much carrying on as normal, and we're not even going to realize that the Department of Agricultural whatever has no tangible effect on any of our lives. You know what I mean? And there's so many agencies like that. And I have no idea what agency I'm even talking about, but you know what I mean? Like there are so many government agencies that when not funded will not change your day-to-day life in any meaningful way. And once that happens, and like say we're shut down for a month or 2 or 3 or whatever it is, and nothing changes, you're like, okay, well, why are we going to refund the government then? Like, can we just stay unfunded forever?
And, you know, if you want to, this is why you can see some of these giant deployments like this. If it happens, you have to look at the game theory of it and wonder how they got them in this position. I mean, it's pretty masterful because if, to your point about the zero basing, there was no way optically you were going to be able to get the public mandate, or at least I guess the illusion of it, to zero base the US government. You know, that's not, even though that's the philosophy that's motivating the Doge deployment, it's not actually what they've been doing so far, right? Like they're not actually zero basing what they're doing that behind the scenes in terms of their internal metrics of, like you said, what they came in to correct, but they're not actually
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not actually going in and zero basing the government and then building it back up. They're taking a scalpel. Trump literally used the terminology, a scalpel approach, and going in and, you know, trimming the fat and everything. But this would allow a zero base template, like a reset, essentially, except Trump and his administration have full narrative shielding for the zero base accounting of the government because the Democrats are going to get blamed for the shutdown. And Chuck Schumer is taking full credit for the shutdown, right? So if you're on like Squawk Box, I think that was canceled, but the equivalent in the next, after a shutdown happens, and you're talking about how horrible it is that all these agencies are shut down, and then and that Doge is doing what you're saying, and are the ones in charge of flicking the lights back on wherever they deem it fit to do so, you're going to then have the obvious counterpoint on those, in any of those rants, that the Democrats were the ones who zero-based the government, that then Trump is responsible for reaccounting. So it's like they're the ones who would be hitting the reset button, and then Trump is the one who's in charge of how the reset happens.
Yeah, and you know, Trump has been giving himself some narrative shielding, and that's what I think this Thomas Massey thing is about. But first, I want to point out a comment in the chat. Linda GM says, secret, government never really shuts down. Essential functions continues. That's the point. The only thing that we should be funding anyway is just the essential functions, whatever those are, whatever Doge and team deem those to be. But it should be like hardly anything. Our government is so bloated, and there's so much BS in there that's exactly what we want. That's what a shutdown would lead us to do, is only fund those things. And then when we come back from the shutdown, those should be the only things we continue funding. Nothing else needs to be there, in my opinion. But yeah, so when you're talking about narrative shielding from this, you know, it's always a blame game in the media. The media is going to try to blame Trump, but the Democrats, it does come down to them, which is kind of funny because they don't have the majority in either house. They have nothing right now. The Democrats are totally falling apart. It's been insane. But the Republicans need to get 60 votes in cloture to get it to the floor for the simple majority vote. It's the only leverage the Democrats have through pretty much anything. And so they're going to use it. Like, why would they not use this? And for them, you know, maybe they think like, oh, there's going to be all this pain and suffering and it's going to fall on Trump's shoulders because it's either that or we fund the government. I don't know why anybody is like, including Trump himself. Well, I do know why I think why, but why they want the government to continue spending. It's like we asked Trump to come in here. We gave him this huge mandate to like gut our government. Then everybody's like hammering it about like, we got to get this bill through. We got to get this spending bill through and fund the government through September. Like, why? No, we don't. That's not what we want. But when it comes to Thomas Massey, like I totally agree with him on this one vote thing. Like, I would want nobody to vote on this bill. I dislike Thomas Massey for a lot of other reasons. I don't like anybody in our government. But the only reason Trump is going after him so hard and nobody else, like he's not going after Rand Paul that I've seen, and Rand Paul is supposedly voting against the bill in the Senate.
Right.
But he's going after Thomas Massie, and maybe he actually just doesn't like him. But what this does is when people think of like, man, why is he going after him so hard? That's ridiculous. Like, this is a little ridiculous. It's one vote, and they didn't even need it because it passed in the House anyway. Like, why is he so butthurt about this? It's because when people think of the shutdown, they're going to think of Trump really, really, really wanted this thing passed. Like it's not his fault this thing didn't pass. Do you remember how mad he was at Thomas Massie for not voting for this bill? Like that's the narrative shielding he's creating for himself just by going after Thomas Massie, whether it's real or not.
Yeah, it's a good point because the narrative shielding that he's going to get out of Chuck Schumer and the Democrats, that only goes so far. Like, that shielding extends to Republican voters, centrists, independents are going to be like, this was a Democrat thing. But for Democrat voters, they're not going to do that. They're going to vote blue no matter who. They're going to defend and say it's the orange man's fault. So having another target on that side of the aisle that Trump was feuding with is useful shielding for him for that specific scenario. But yeah, all across the game board, Trump is he's simultaneously saying like, "Oh no, please don't do that." I mean, it's the old Briar Patch analogy with Brer Rabbit. Definitely doesn't want this to happen under any circumstances, and yet, to your point, he essentially ran on this very eventuality happening, just maybe not in this manner.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if it actually goes through or not, but we'll find out Friday. I think I saw Senator Thune called a procedural vote, like the cloture vote, for Friday, and if that doesn't pass, then it's kind of game over. We should find out fairly early in the day Friday, so we shall see. But the ramifications.
And you and Chris on Saturday night can talk about the rug. This was the fun part of what if we don't get rugged, and then you guys can talk
then we'll
about
see what actually happens. But Trump told us eventually, like, we're gonna have to default eventually, right? We're gonna have to. Yep. But the interesting thing is like what a shutdown will actually feel like, and how this, on a macro scale with everything else going on. We should talk about that. You can go into what you're gonna say earlier
about the economy.
Yeah, like tariff stuff.
Yeah. So this week in particular, one of the big macro narratives among like the media on all sides is the U.S. economy. The stock market is down, like the Dow Jones is down, all that kind of stuff. Individual stocks are getting hammered. And almost every interview that Trump has appeared on, or every Oval Office appearance, he's getting asked by friendly and unfriendly media, are we heading into a recession? What's so funny about this is that on sort of normie or normie adjacent YouTube and the alt media, they're all talking about, they're wondering aloud if Trump is playing 5D chess. And it's funny because these are all the people that have been making fun of this community for basically forwarding that very idea with everything from Q to Devolution and talking about how there's long-term planning and genius behind what Trump does. They're kind of joking about it, but all these alt media economists, I saw Ghost was talking about the Zero Hedge team, they're talking about, man, these recession indicators that are flashing right now seem like all of the things that Trump has been warning about and saying that we might need in order to kind of get ourselves off the globalist system. So the tariffs are a big example of that. Maria Bartiromo, he was on. I should have pulled that clip for this show, but that's been circulating a lot in the last couple of days, where she was asking him about, are we going to have a recession? And he said, well, I don't really like that word, but, the unspoken answer was yes. And I think what he's doing here is it's like taking a drug addict off of drugs. He's essentially bifurcating the economy. He's onshoring the real U.S. economy, which we've been talking about a lot. He's using tariffs to do it.
Privatizing it.
Right. The short-term pain is all being felt in the stock market. And Trump is saying, like, your stocks are going to rebound. Don't worry about it. This is a temporary thing. But one of the things I'd said before the show to John that I think is fascinating about this is that this is the whole Wall Street versus Main Street bifurcation that's happened in the U.S. economy, to the point where normal Americans have had to measure their wealth in the form of Wall Street, how Wall Street measures their wealth. It's all 401ks. It's all like, how are your investments doing, rather than how is your money doing in the bank? And the crash, or if we get any kind of crash, it seems like it's going to be limited to the stock market, but the real economy of goods and services is going to be improving while the stock market is dropping. And I just wanted to show this is the messaging already starting to come out of the White House, never mind just Trump, where they put out a statement here: manufacturing is roaring back under President Trump. They're talking about 9,000 new auto jobs created in the most recent report. Then they reference a 27,000 auto jobs left in Biden's year. So just as a counter signal, all of the economic media is like 5-alarm fire. Everything is burning down. Meanwhile, the White House is saying, like, we added 9,000 new auto manufacturing jobs, guys. And all the media is doing is talking about stocks. So that's where all the fake money has gone, because there hasn't been a real economy on Main Street underlying any of that. And I did want to play this one short exchange. People saw the Trump Tesla thing with but he has a couple interesting comments here at the end.
President, your comments the other day not ruling out a potential recession seem to rattle the stock markets.
I think you can speed it up a little bit. It's a little slow.
This is how I listen to everything.
Is going to boom, just so you know.
President, your comments the other day not ruling out a potential recession seem to rattle the stock markets. The Commerce Secretary said there wouldn't be one. Boom, just so you know. Just specifically on the recession.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a recession?
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom. But as I said, I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it is exactly what I'm doing, but the results are going to be 20 times greater. And remember, Trump is always right.
And what do you say to Americans?
If you look at what I've said over the last 10 years, Trump has been right all the time. This is the way to do it.
So, I mean, he's, adds a little nugget for this audience in there at the end about how long he's been saying this kind of stuff. But it's just an example of, as we said with the government shutdown topic, with the economy, he has been saying, like, we need to return it to Main Street. The stock market is not how you should be measuring success, even though ironically he did that in his first term.
Yep.
And now we're seeing it.
Yeah, well, these two things go hand in hand, and that's what's so interesting about it, because when you look at what a recession is, right? It's like, I think it's defined as like 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth, right? And then you look at what GDP is, and it's consumption, the investment. There's the net exports, imports, which that makes the tariff stuff very interesting, right? Like how that's playing out. And so maybe are we going to start exporting? Because I think it's exports minus imports. And so it'll be very interesting to see how that plays into it, because the tariffs start April 2nd.
Yep.
And then the other one, part of the formula is government spending. And if you have a shutdown, you're going to have very little government spending.
Right.
And so, like, by definition, we could see a recession, but we may not actually feel like a recession because of all the economic stuff that's going on here domestically, importing, these companies, the manufacturing, but then also it's the illegal aliens and getting rid of all of these illegal aliens and them not coming in here. Like, how much of our previous economies were basically propped up, fake GDP, based on importing cheap labor to keep those numbers up. You know what I mean? So that's why it just seems almost like too good to be true on the timing part of this with the shutdown and how that equates to the GDP and how that equates to the recession definition. But then on top of all that, like, what do you normally see when, and I'm not by no means a financial expert, but I was trying to like read up on some things and I came across an interesting Twitter post and I forgot to save it. And so I'm going to paraphrase it, and I'm going to paraphrase it very poorly here, but it's when people like are worried about the stock market and what it's doing, they're going to leave the stock market, and where are they going to go? Typically, they're going to go get treasuries. And so what does that do for our economy? It's all fascinating. Like it all just seems like too perfect to be true. It's building this perfect storm for a minimal, there's going to be minimal pain probably some pain still in some way, but probably more fear than anything. It's going to be more fearful. People are going to be afraid, but minimal pain. And then like by the time you get to the flip side of this, which it could potentially be a very short pain period, you have potential for a real boom. Like that's when the switch theory kicks in and everything. I mean, it could be massive. So I don't know if you
totally
want to spin
yeah
off.
yeah no, I totally agree with that. And even like the way you said that you reference like the pain, like we're not going to feel the pain. That's why I use the term bifurcation. I think that that's among many strategies that you just outlined. That's one of the main ones. I think that a lot of this is going to be hindsight, but the point you made on GDP is a good one, because all these metrics like GDP, consumer price index, the rate of inflation, like all these things are, or the stock market itself, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, etc., the S&P 500. These things have been hard-coded into the American psyche as the markers of whether or not the country is doing well, right? And how many normal Americans, everyday Americans, feel like their lives are connected in any way to what's going on in the S&P 500. Like, yeah, your dad's been investing in his 401k for 40 years. So sure, when the green arrow is pointing up, his retirement, his unrealized retirement is doing well. But it doesn't really matter, which is also another point at what you ended on of where we might see the switch and everything. And Trump is referencing the timeline. He's saying short-term pain, long-term gain. But what's funny is the short-term pain is not going to be felt, to your point, because like the oldest rule in, even if you are an investor in the stock market, is you don't gain anything until you sell, which also means you have not lost anything until you sell, right? But the narrative is going to be that the economy is tanking, except in terms of realized losses for the American people, there's not going to be any. And if we turn this stuff around within 18 months or whatever, like he's talking about, seems like he's really planting a flag in that like mid 2026 window. What an opportunity we have to not just onshore US production, but to divorce the American mind from thinking of success in terms of globalist GDP numbers and government jobs. And your point about illegals is a good one too, because it's not only that you've got this cheap labor in the country, we are subsidizing the cheap labor with government spending.
Yeah.
So every illegal immigrant that comes into the United States raises the GDP. This is one of the many reasons why the examples I give of that when the media is telling you illegal immigrants are good for the economy, they're not lying. They're telling you that they're good for their fake economy. They're not good for your economy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so the two things that go hand in hand as well is the imports exports, like that calculation, and consumption, because as this reciprocal trade war goes on and people keep raising tariffs and Trump keeps just like, okay, well, if you're going to raise your tariff, we're just going to raise it by the exact same amount. Eventually, anything that's being imported into our country, nobody's going to want to buy because the prices are going to be so high. And so what's that going to do? It's going to force domestic manufacturing on those products. And for a period, that means people might not consume those products as much because the prices are going to be so high. And those are both numbers in the GDP thing. But after once they get the manufacturing part figured out, like again, it comes right up. So I do think definitionally we will see a recession. It's just, we're not going to, again, this is total speculation, just playing with, what we're seeing. No idea if we're even going to get the government shutdown, guys, total speculation. But things seem to be lining up in a very interesting way here, that it's an opportunity we've never had before. And on my daily show today, I read through an article, this guy, a guy I met at Gart, Badlander, he sent over Peter. It's just, the timing is just too good. He'd be like the first president in history to be willing to go through the short-term pain for the long-term gain. Like that's what the golden age is all about. Like if we're going to get to that golden age, at some point we have to go through this little period of suffering, right? Whatever that looks like, I have no idea. But that's what Trump is doing. He doesn't care about getting reelected again, so he's not playing politics.
Yeah,
he's not playing the stock market game and faking, the propped up GDP numbers. He doesn't care about that anymore. He actually cares about fixing the country and doing what's right for the country. And if this is it, if this is what sets us on the right track, on top of all the government cutting and all the, the corrupt spending and everything else that he's doing, like, I mean, it really could be pretty special.
Yeah, and the other that leads me into the other thing I've been thinking about a lot for a few years now, and writing about. We'll see if it happens, but I think the next major economic narrative you're going to see out of Trump is going to be directed at Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve. That's where I think this is going. Similar to the segment we just did on the government shutdown, you and I can sit here and agree broadly that Trump is probably in favor of the government shutdown, but that's not going to be the story that he advances, right? He's going to say, this isn't what I wanted, this isn't my fault, but now that it's here, let's deal with it. I think the same thing is going to happen with this recession. So the Federal Reserve is very publicly opposed to Donald Trump. They're not supposed to be, but they have. Jerome Powell even stated in the lead up to the 2024 election, a reporter asked him, what if Trump asks you to resign? Would you leave? And he was like, no way, right? Like, he is an adversary of Trump. So Trump has been saying he wants interest rates to be cut because he wants to unleash liquidity onto Main Street in the form of lending, car loans, house loans, all this kind of stuff, right? And the Fed does not want to cut the rates, partly because of political strife with Trump, but I think it's because of all the money printing that's gone on. And they know that in this inflationary environment, if they cut rates, the money printer has already gone burr way too many times, and you're going to get this inflationary scenario that's a huge problem. This is why I think Trump basically has the Federal Reserve trapped. If the Federal Reserve is telling the American people we're not going to cut interest rates, while their own media is telling the American people that the stock markets are crashing because there's not enough liquidity in the markets, and the Federal Reserve is not going to unleash any liquidity into the markets, then Trump is going to be sitting there going, Jerome Powell could literally fix the stock market overnight by signaling rate cuts, and he's not going to do it. So, I think that this is all eventually leading us into, a different monetary system or a revaluation of the dollar. But in the meantime, somebody has to blink there. Jerome Powell has to blink at some point and either take credit or take the blame for the recession that Trump is going to hit him with, or he's going to have to cut rates.
Yeah, I think you're missing something here. Because when I was saying earlier, like with the stock market going down, that leads to people like wanting to find something like of safety, right? And when they do that, they typically go and buy treasuries. And when you go and buy like bonds or whatever, or if a lot of people go from the stock market because things are shaky, they're scared, they go and go to the treasury, the bond prices go up, yields go down, and that typically leads to lower interest rates. So like a shaky and scared stock market could almost force the Fed to cut interest rates.
Exactly.
You don't want to. And so, I mean, just that's like the net result of this whole thing too. Like, even while all the things we just talked about for the last like 20 minutes are really like good things, cutting government spending, cracking down on illegal immigration, the import-export stuff, consumption, everything. The lower the stock market gets, the more people will be fleeing to buy treasuries, which will lower interest rates for everybody else. And again, that's why it's all just like so perfect.
Yeah, right.
And forgive me if I butchered that, but that's like my understanding of how it works, not being a expert on the financial aspect of things, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And so again, just another piece of this puzzle that's like we're putting this puzzle together all at the same time, finally,
Yeah, and that's what, maybe I didn't phrase it right, but that's essentially what I'm saying, is that not about the bonds in particular, the treasuries point you made, because I think that makes sense too, but more that the stock market being in the position it is from Trump's moves, he's going to blame on the Fed by saying that they could reverse it if they wanted to. And they're not. They're going to be telling me, like, they're going to be resisting that in front of the American people, where the American people are going to be sitting there going like, why are you not lowering interest rates? Because the Fed funds rate are who controls interest rates.
Yeah.
For lending, intrabank lending.
Yeah.
So if you've got people out there going like, hey, I'm trying to secure a house loan, Trump was telling me interest rates are going to come down, but Jerome Powell won't budge on the interest rates. Meanwhile, the stock market is falling. It's actually Trump's fault that the stock market is falling, but he's going to say it's because of the high interest rates.
Yeah,
so
it'll be interesting.
Powell is fucked. Like the Federal Reserve, and I mean, these are more like pie in the sky sort of theories, but it feels like there's been a long-term collision course between Donald Trump and the U.S. Federal Reserve, because it's not the U.S. We all know this. And I feel like the battle space is being prepared right now for Trump to actually have a bipartisan mandate over the course of the next year, year and a half, to go to war with the Federal Reserve. If the American people, even liberals, believe that the Federal Reserve is acting in a partisan manner in a way that is harming them to hurt the Trump administration, he's going to get the mandate to look at what they've been doing.
Yeah. No, you're spot on, man. It's just, there's too many like different angles to this converging right now. That's why it's such an interesting time. And when you think like game theory stuff too, if you're Trump and you know we have to go through some sort of period because the current financial system that we're on and in like the debt-based system, it's not functional. It's not going to work. Like there's got to be the reset button that we hit, and it's just a matter of how the system resets. There's no better time to do this than very early on in Trump's administration. And so, like, why not do it now? And then you couple all this too with the Bitcoin executive order, on crypto assets, the Bitcoin strategic reserve, and the crypto stockpile thing, which is so much Bitcoin signal. I went through that on my show yesterday. Like reading through that thing, they very clearly, and I know this is going to upset some people. I've seen the DMs and I've seen the people in response. Like, I'm not the one who wrote this executive order. All I did was read it. And you guys have eyeballs too, and you can read this. The executive order clearly puts Bitcoin ahead of every other crypto. And I'm sorry, I know
By
that
many
hurts.
orders of magnitude.
Yes, but it's very, very obvious that they are placing Bitcoin ahead of everything else. I know that's not what you want to hear. I don't have to hear your explanation of why you think XRP is better. I'm not the one who wrote it. Go complain to Trump. But that's just what it is. It is what it is. Maybe they change it, and you're right, and they'll be like, oh, wait, we totally messed up after the 30-day review, and they come up with a plan, and then it's all XRP, whatever. But that's not the case right now. That is not what Trump did. It is Bitcoin and then everything else. And they're looking for creative ways to fund the Bitcoin strategic. And so we kind of had this little debate in our private chat. And I still think I'm right, but I think
we probably just
right.
misunderstood each other. Yeah. So, but I didn't understand what you meant.
Yeah. So the executive order, like it talks about ways to creatively fund. Like it specifically said, I should almost just pull it up. Give me a second.
Yeah. Budget neutral ways to fund the strategic Bitcoin reserve, right?
Yeah. Let me just pull this up quick. And show you guys.
The language is always tricky in these things. That's why it gets very confusing.
Yep. So they create the strategic Bitcoin reserve. They create a separate digital assets reserve for anything other than Bitcoin. So clearly delineating this. But then right here, this is the big one. And I don't think it quite signals what you were saying in the private chat of how like they're going to sell the other stuff to fund
I don't
this.
know if they're going to. I thought it signaled that they could.
I think that's the like next phase when we see here, because it's the only thing that makes sense. It just doesn't specifically call for it in this, but I'm going to read this. The Secretary of Treasury and Secretary of Commerce shall develop strategies for acquiring additional government Bitcoin, provided that such strategies are budget neutral and do not impose incremental costs on the United States taxpayers. The only thing that makes sense by this is like selling off assets that you have that you've gotten from, illicit activities, which are the other things in the crypto, the other asset pile, whatever. It's the only thing that makes sense. But then it says here, the head of each agency shall not sell or otherwise dispose of any government digital assets unless the Secretary of Treasury says so. So I think we were both right in our private discussion, and the people in the chat have no idea what we're talking about. Anyway, but it also says in here, they shall not acquire additional stockpile assets other than in connection with criminal or civil asset forfeiture. And so, like I said, it's not my fault. I didn't write it, but they are clearly separating and putting Bitcoin above everything else.
I missed that specific part right there that you just highlighted, that they don't want. Yeah, that's interesting. So they're also signaling that they're not going to acquire any more of that stuff. Yeah, what I meant in that second graph was they're saying that they're not going to move Bitcoin out of. They said what they even say the language at some point. Once it's in the strategic Bitcoin reserve, it's not moving. Essentially, that's the intention.
That's this right here.
Well, that's about the asset stockpile, right? The crypto asset stockpile.
No, this is everything. Government digital assets means all government Bitcoin and all stockpile assets.
Okay. The second sentence, or the continuation there, is what I was focusing on. Except in connection with the Secretary of the Treasury's exercise, blah, 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 responsible stewardship of the United States digital asset stockpile. So the second part of that is what I was referring to, where it's saying, like, we're not going to move anything, but if we do, it's going to be out of the digital asset stockpile, which is the non-Bitcoin one. That's how I read that.
Yeah, and so I don't think it's very good. Like, I mean, you're coming to a conclusion that I think that's where this inevitably goes. I don't think it explicitly states it here yet. I think that comes after the 30 days when they come up with their plan. But the fact, like, the only thing that makes sense to get more Bitcoin in a budget neutral way that doesn't add incremental costs to taxpayers is to sell stuff from the other crypto asset stockpile and buy more Bitcoin. Like that. Yeah.
So I don't know if you've heard of the Lummis bill, but the Cynthia Lummis bill. But
I've heard of it. I haven't got into it though.
It's really interesting. Maybe we could do like a segment on it next week. But generally speaking, the Cynthia Lummis bill, she's a senator from Wyoming. Nice lady. But she's been trying to get a Bitcoin. She was the one who was really pushing for a Bitcoin strategic reserve for a long time. Like, she's very well liked in the Bitcoin space. She's kind of seen as the one senator really pushing for this stuff. Now, the interesting thing is many Bitcoin people believe that the language in this executive order referring to the budget neutral acquisition of Bitcoin is a specific reference to Cynthia Lummis. The Lummis bill, which has never passed, but is going to come back up again this year, proposes to start a Bitcoin strategic reserve, first of all. So that's done. Her personal advice or implementation of this, of how to fund it, she knew that it would be too controversial to take taxpayer money and use it to buy Bitcoin or take government budget. So she wants it to be budget neutral. Well, how do you do that? What you just said makes sense. You've got seized assets, put those into Bitcoin. That's not what she says. She says, I forget how much, so people can look this up. The number of gold reserve notes, treasury notes, held by the Federal Reserve is in the billions. And I think maybe even the hundreds of billions. What's really weird about this is that at the time that those gold notes were vaulted, I think they were vaulted at the 1971 rate, which was like $35 or something like that, whatever it was. So what Lummis is saying is that we've already got all these gold notes, not the physical gold, but we've got these gold notes in our possession for the Federal Reserve. All we have to do is revalue them to the current value of gold and sell those reserves to buy Bitcoin with them. That the government could legally do that, and that's hundreds of billions of dollars.
We don't even know if we have gold.
What exactly? This isn't even gold. This is treasury notes, like pegged to the 1971 value of gold. Okay, so she's basically saying that the assets on the Federal Reserve's balance sheet can be sold off.
I'm starting to get concerned, man. You have said pegged or pegging more times in the last week than I think I've heard anybody ever say in their life. And I got, is everything okay?
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
Are you okay? You're good?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm feeling good about the Lummis bill and the pegging.
Okay. I know times can be tough after you have a newborn. I'm just checking in. So, no, but we haven't heard, like, there's all this talk about, let's go audit the gold. Let's go to Fort Knox and see how much gold there is. I haven't heard a single thing about that in the last week and a half.
Right.
So
Scott Bessent laughed at it, and I don't know, we don't know which way this stuff's going to go, but yeah, for like the three people in the chat being like, Bitcoin's a rug pull and a trap. And it's like, okay, well, if that's true, then Donald Trump is getting rug pulled and starting a strategic reserve.
It totally could be. Maybe gold and silver is a thing. I don't know. But when it comes to just the crypto discussion, right? Just the crypto discussion, Trump and this executive order put Bitcoin above everything else. And it just is what it is. Like, facts don't care about your feelings, right? God, we should trademark that. We should put that on a shirt or something. But nobody's ever said that before. But that's just like how it is right now. Like, and I get it. Like, I've gotten the maxi pads on both sides are some of the most annoying people on planet Earth, and the XRP bros are not taking this very well.
Right.
And what's so funny is because it's a complete 180 from like just a week ago. Trump had that one Truth Social post, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And for an hour and a half, the XRP people were the most intolerable group of people on planet Earth. But then it switched back, and now it's the Bitcoin people. I find both to be a little intolerable, but
yeah, but if one's correct,
then
all their intolerability is forgiven. Like, if you end up being right about the most important thing to be right about, or one of the most important things to be right about, I think it's okay if you were annoying. Because in fairness, whenever they say anything about this, especially going back to... So, Ash, I would say the way it puts it above these other crypto is... it specifically defines it as it doesn't just put it above other crypto. It defines it as a unique monetary asset that has no issuer, which is de facto saying and admitting what maxis have been saying forever, that every other cryptocurrency ever has an issuer. It's the same thing as a bank, right? Like, it's the exact thing that we're trying to get away from. So XRP created their own cryptocurrency, pre-mined it to themselves, and sells it to retail.
There's such an easier answer to this. Like, the reason they're putting it above is because they're looking to acquire more, and they're not looking to do that with anything else. Like, you don't even have to get into the details of it. The executive order says we want to acquire as much Bitcoin as possible, or maybe it doesn't say it like that, but they are looking for other ways to get more Bitcoin other than asset seizure because of illicit activities. They're not doing that with the other side of it. That's in my opinion what puts it above. Like, we don't have to have the debate on the technical aspects of either of these things. I think we lose people when we do that. But just based on the executive order and the wording in there, they're putting it above, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just saying that even in the language in the bill, they reference why they're doing that. Like, they explain, like, why would they be choosing Bitcoin? And the government says, the US government now, their official stance, the reason that they say they want a budget neutral way to acquire more Bitcoin is because it has no issuer. Like, there's many other things, right? To your point, the technical aspects of it that we don't have to get into. But what David Sachs, who was supposedly behind a lot of this and that Trump picked as his cryptos are, and what's in a lot of the language here is that Bitcoin has no central issuer. That's also, Lummis is talking about that when it comes to the Lummis bill. We don't know if the Lummis bill is going to pass, but a lot of people believe that the Lummis bill is going to have a much better chance going forward, because now it's got this executive order that essentially is saying, hey, we need budget neutral ways to acquire more Bitcoin. And it's like Cynthia Lummis is sitting here with a bill that's entire purpose is budget neutral ways to acquire Bitcoin.
Let's see if Ash responded. She's always just trying to debate us. So, seize and hold forever, Ash says. Or seize Bitcoin. Well, they're going to seize Bitcoin too, but they're also looking for more ways outside that.
Yeah, they have budget neutral ways to acquire more. And yeah, seizing is definitely one of those ways. But
on top of that,
not the only one.
I would encourage you guys to like take the time, because I know we have a lot of people that are hesitant about buying Bitcoin. It's probably the fault of the Bitcoin guy on our channel, which I totally understand that. G-Money can be a little off-putting sometimes. That's okay. I still love the guy. But if there was ever a reason to like seriously take a look at or to seriously consider buying Bitcoin, now's like your opportunity. Go read this executive order. I'll put it in the chat. Just read it for yourself. Come up with your own interpretation of it. And if you see what I see by looking at this, I would encourage you to get just a little bit. Buy a little bit a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. Badlandsmedia.tv/river. And then Ash wants Ghost to know that he has to get out of the chat and write your takes.
I know, Ghost. What the hell?
Anyway.
I'm trying to look for one little section of a video.
Are you talking about G-Money yelling?
No.
Because I want to find that one.
It's a Trump, before we move off of this topic, talking about Bitcoin. He's basically makes the point, he did a speech 3 months ago, I think in Dubai, Eric Trump, talking about how his family's wealth all came through real estate, right? Which we used to be like the most stable asset, and talking about how Bitcoin is way better than real estate. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to agree with it, but it's like the people that think it's a rug pull, well, then the Trump family is directly involved, and you know, they've got their meme coins too, which is funny. So
yeah, I'm trying to find a video right now. So
I've got the video. I just can't. Oh, you're trying to find a different one?
Different one. You do your thing. So we're both trying to find a video. So, chat, if you guys could just entertain yourselves for a minute, that'd be appreciated. Where the hell is it? It's not that one. It's not that one. It must be this one.
You know what? Let me. I think he says it at this point, and if I'm wrong about the specific quote, if I can't find it, this is still interesting.
Skyrocket the way it is. But unlike real estate, Bitcoin's not tied to geography. It's global. It's instantly liquid. You know, try selling this convention center to a REIT right now. You know, I'll see you in 2 years. Try going out and selling a big office building. You know, it will take you 18 months to do. At the end of it, you're going to want to shoot yourself in frustration. I truly believe in the coming decades that this is going to become the cornerstone of the modern global financial system. It'll be used to safeguard your wealth. And make no mistake about it, guys. We as a family, and my father in office, we're going to lead the charge doing this. We're going to lead the charge in every single way. So my ending message to everybody here is really congratulations, Bitcoin. Congratulations. Congratulations.
All right, that wasn't the spot. I mean, it's a good spot, but there's a moment in that speech, I will put the link in chat, where he specifically talks about gold and says, if gold ever gets revalued, you'll tear apart every structure to find it and pull it out of the walls. We'll go mine more of it. Countries are going to all of a sudden tell you that they discovered massive deposits of more of it. And, you know, specifically says, like, this doesn't make sense. But hey, what do they know, right? Like,
yep. Well, we'll move on from this topic, but I do want to show one video of G Money, because he actually apologized this weekend at Guard for being like so rude. I think it's worth showing. You guys should give him another chance, because he did apologize. So just listen.
All of your energy from you, and so that's what I want you guys to know: is you guys can become aggressive. You guys can become violent in the digital space. You guys can take that power back. And look, I've been vilified, right? Everybody, you know, I got the haters out there. Love all the haters. You know, I talk a lot of smack, you know, and so, you know, from like the bottom of my heart, I want to apologize to absolutely nobody, because Bitcoiners do not give a fuck, and we're going to take over. And Bitcoin is an American superpower, and it's the most American thing ever. And you can take your power back. You can take your energy back. You can take your information back from all of that. So we don't give up, and I'm not leaving.
I thought it was so funny. You weren't there for that, were you?
No.
So it's
if
like,
anybody somehow does not know the reference, he is doing a Conor McGregor reference.
Yeah, this is so funny. Because I was like, what is he doing? He's not actually apologizing here. I know he's not. But I thought maybe he was like, he finally realized, like, hey, maybe John's right. Maybe I should be a little more subtle in my approach. Maybe that might encourage people to actually look into this stuff. And he just went nuts. But okay.
Hold on, one more thing.
No.
It's not on. It's on this stuff, but it's interesting from a global perspective. The EU is freaking out as a result of Trump's executive order that we just read. So counter signal: the U.S. administration is favorable toward crypto, etc., which may raise certain concerns in Europe. They say they support the ECB's urgency in making the digital euro a reality to safeguard Europe's strategic autonomy. The digital euro is more necessary than ever. So just to put that differently,
digital euro.
The EU is publicly hitting a panic button about Donald Trump's strategic Bitcoin reserve and telling the world that it is a threat to the central bank digital currencies that Trump banned and that they want to create as a result.
Yeah.
So
that is interesting.
soft war, like,
plus Rumble bought Bitcoin like the other day.
And how much of it did they buy, John? Because people like pointing this out when it suits their narratives. How much of it did they buy? What was the number there?
I don't like pointing that stuff out in
Just saying.
any narrative, even when it
Just saying.
suits the one I'm trying to, the one I'm pushing, because I just don't do that. But yeah, they bought a lot of Bitcoin. Okay, let's go to the Ukraine peace discussion topic, and this will be probably the last one we do tonight. The saga of the peace deals has been a very interesting one to watch, because a lot of people here at Badlands think these peace deals have already been negotiated. The United States, and at least Putin, and maybe some other people in the Sovereign Alliance already know how this ends, and we're just seeing this story play out for whatever reason they're trying to play this out. But it's been fun to watch, and it's been fun to watch Europe and Zelensky reacts. I don't think they're involved in any of this. I think they're actually just like being left at the side of the road and being like, what the hell is going on here? But we got to this point where 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, Zelensky's at the White House. He makes an absolute fool of himself, and then he gets kicked out. He goes to Europe, gets a loan. He has the meeting with all the NATO people, and they leave the United States out of it. And then he comes back and says, okay, we're ready to negotiate again. They've had negotiations these last few days, and we finally have a ceasefire deal on the table that they're waiting for Russia to accept. That's where we're at now. When before it was Zelensky wouldn't even agree to a ceasefire, which isn't even like the peace deal. It's just like, hey, let's stop shooting at each other, if that's actually even happening, so that we can negotiate the peace plan. It's the pre-peace plan. And we're waiting on word from Russia to see what they're going to do. But I think it's very interesting to see some normie reactions to this, because some people on normie Twitter are like, it's all a plot to get Putin. It's a brilliant strategy by Trump, because they're going to be they resumed the intelligence gathering, and they resumed the weapon shipments. And so this whole ceasefire is just to like restock Ukraine so they can deliver a final blow. I'm like, you guys are so stupid. But
yeah, that's why they're discussing joint economic projects between the U.S. and Russia. Right.
And what I do think is interesting, because I did see a video today, and I should probably find it so I don't butcher it, because it was Putin, and he was talking about the ceasefire and his conditions for ceasefire.
They're all the same conditions of when he set out in the Donbass.
And it's all the same conditions for his peace plan. Like, it's the same conditions. He's like, if you want a ceasefire, if you want a peace, whatever, like, it's still all the same stuff I'm asking for. This is what he said. I'm probably gonna have to read this, aren't I? These conditions are very simple. Ukrainian troops must be completely withdrawn from the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics. I hate Ukrainian words. You know these better than I do. You read it.
The Kherson and Zaporozhye regions. And I draw attention to the entire territory of these regions within their administrative borders that existed at the time of their entry into Ukraine. As soon as Kyiv declares that they are ready for such a decision to begin a real withdrawal of troops from these regions, and also officially notifies of the abandonment of plans to join NATO, we will immediately, literally at that very moment, issue an order to cease fire and begin negotiations. I repeat, we will do this without delay. Naturally, at the same time, we guarantee the unimpeded and safe withdrawal of Ukrainians, I believe it said.
Yeah. So, again, it's the same conditions he's been asking for the entire time.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting that, like, the United States and Ukraine had these meetings, and they came out of the meetings. The United States fully knows what Putin wants and what his terms are, but yet they agreed to the ceasefire with Ukraine anyway. That doesn't, I don't think, satisfy what Putin wants in terms of a peace plan or ceasefire. So I don't know, man.
Well, to me, too, the key here, I'd said this before the show, I believe it was Waltz, who's one of the guys over there with Rubio involved in the negotiations here with Ukraine, specifically has been saying to the globalist media, there is no way a ceasefire or a peace deal happens without Ukraine ceding territory to Russia. So the United States is specifically saying the deal will not happen without the very things that Putin is saying there, right? What are the two conditions that Putin lays out? There are two conditions. One, the territory that Russia has seized is Russian. Two, Ukraine must not join NATO. What did Donald Trump say to Volodymyr Zelensky in the White House? Both of those things, right? You don't have the cards. You're going to have to give something away, meaning territory, and you are not going to join NATO. Trump has literally said, quote, it's not going to happen in terms of joining NATO. So Zelensky said he was open to a ceasefire after the Ukrainian delegation met with Waltz and Rubio. Waltz and Rubio are laying out something similar to what Putin is saying here. And then Zelensky the next day comes out and says, not a single inch of Ukrainian territory is going to be ceded to Russia. So just in the public narrative, Zelensky is, when he's behind closed doors, what we're led to believe is that when he is behind closed doors with the US delegation, he is telling them that he's going to go to the table. And then when he's talking to the media, he is saying the exact opposite. So, to me, like, whatever you think about where Zelensky lies in this, he is just acting as a clown in terms of the central narrative, because everyone in the world knows they've got... Oh, and one more thing on this. Wall Street Journal reported today that Kursk, there was the Kursk offensive where the Ukrainians took that little Russian territory. They've been driven out of Kursk. So when Trump said a week and a half ago, you have no cards left, the only card, according to the globalist media, that Ukraine had was that they had seized Russian territory. So they lost it. Now they've got nothing.
Yeah. I think, well, first of all, speaking of clowns, got my new Clown World shirt on. You know what? I'm going to play that right now, real quick.
By now, you've probably seen the new collab between Rise Attire and Badlands Media. But I'll tell you what you haven't seen. The end of Clown World as we know it. But have no fear. Introducing the latest addition to the Badlands INTL lineup. The sequel to the best-selling Psy-War series. We've been conditioned by these clowns to accept their circus. But it's time to unwind that and strike them out the history books. The future belongs to the real, and we've got it in droves. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/rise for the full line of premium and direct-to-garment streetwear. Made to order right here in the good old US of A, the heart of the resistance. The fall of Clown World is upon us, patriots. Let's make it official.
Yeah, so
It's a good promo.
Awesome job, Rise Attire. Merch is great. Wearing it right now. Like I said, Clown World. I don't remember what I was going to say after that, but I think it was worth it because
Ukraine, and they are not.
We should talk about how hard Ukrainian words are to read. When I read them on my show, I have to skip past them. It's the worst.
Well, there's no such thing as a Ukrainian word. They're all Cyrillic words because Ukraine is Russia and always has been.
Okay. We just got a funny rant. I love G-Money. Here's $10 in support of him. He's not going to get any of that $10. That's coming to me and BB. But I'll tell him you said so. But yeah, anyway, I didn't really have much. Oh, I think Steve Witkoff, who, by the way, when we were in Vegas, we drove by that big blue hotel or whatever, the Fontainebleau. He owns, he's one of the ownership group of that hotel. It took like 20 years to build something crazy. I just thought it was interesting. But him and I think one other, maybe Rubio or Mike Waltz, one of those two, they're going to Russia supposedly this week. And Trump said he's going to call Putin this week and tell him to take the deal. He's telling people, Trump is, that if they don't agree to the ceasefire, he's going to do things to them financially. That would be very terrible. But they very much so de-dollarized. I can't imagine what things we can do to really have a big effect on their financial lives. But I don't know.
Well, speaking of monetary transitions, and hey, if you want to think it's gold or Bitcoin or a mix of many different things, that's been floated for years with the BRICS alliance. I see what you just described as narrative pincer moves, where if Donald Trump goes to war with Putin with sanctions and everything, just like Biden did, all it's going to do is accelerate the bifurcation. It's going to accelerate, and I don't mean from between the U.S. and Russia. I mean from foreign countries and the U.S. dollar. And if you think Trump is trying to save the dollar, I mean, he's trying to save the original dollar, perhaps. He's not trying to save the Federal Reserve note or the petrodollar.
No.
And if, Putin a month ago said the only thing that they can't stop is Bitcoin. So it's going to be just funny. Trump just announced a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Many people believe that these other countries probably already have them. But when do we start seeing that game theory public? When do we start seeing them say, we've got one too? I mean, honestly, they probably shouldn't, because the smart thing to do, even for the US, would be to stack quietly. That's actually going to be a funny thing to watch, because I think legally they would not be able to do that.
It'll
they
be
would have
interesting.
to disclose it.
They have their own Bitcoin reserve in Russia already, don't they?
I don't believe they're public about it. Everybody theorizes that they do, and China. Actually, we do know that China has almost 200,000 Bitcoin, and I don't know what the source of that is. I don't know if that's seizures as well. But a lot of the governments that have public balances of Bitcoin that people know about is similar to the US, where it's seized Bitcoin.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, for those who missed at the beginning, my hands are blue, and I think it's because of Sather's blue methylene or whatever, methylene blue stuff that he got me taken.
It's a sign of gayness too. Like
I got on my hand, yeah.
Gayness.
Yeah, maybe impending. I don't think I'm there yet, but
Right.
we'll see. It's been a long war, guys. It's been a long info war. Yeah, I don't think I got anything else, though, to discuss, unless there's anything related to this. I know you had that Assad video, but I just don't think... Is it... I'll let you decide.
I mean, it's
I'm not
40
as
seconds
checked out. Not as checked out as I normally am when you get to this point where you're like, I just got one more thing I want to throw in here.
For
like,
25 minutes.
Whatever, yeah.
Recently,
whatever.
I've been talking about, or a few months ago when the Syria stuff happened, most of us were saying the surface level narrative seemed weird and inconsistent. And I had floated the idea that we were seeing joint sovereign alliance maneuver defense between the United States and Russia, because the Russians withdrew and Assad withdrew, and the gay Al-Qaeda guys came in, like literally, and
Which
took
ones are
over the
those?
government.
Gay Al-Qaeda?
Well, they're all LGBTQ plus friendly.
Oh.
So I assume that they're gay too, but they might not be. And then we're told that CENTCOM decided to bomb 75 ISIS targets in the immediate aftermath, right? So
Good for
the
you,
timing
Kimmy
there,
D. Sorry to interrupt. Kimmy D made her first buy on river.com, badlandsmedia.tv/river. Good for you. Sorry.
There you go, Kimmy. So I always just thought, hey, this kind of looks like everybody withdrew from the region so that CENTCOM could strike ISIS. This is a 2015 clip. Shout out to Silcom LFC, Killian LFC, who surfaced this. The reason this went viral is it was retweeted by Elon Musk a couple of days ago. And this is 2015 clip of Donald Trump talking about things that you could believe were going on just a couple of months ago.
So I've watched Assad, and I've watched a little bit on the other side. The problem is the other side of Assad, we have no idea who they are. They
he's better
probably
than
are
that.
ISIS. I'm saying, are we better off with Assad? We have no idea who these people are. We give them weapons, we give them ammunition, we give them everything. Aaron, we have no idea who, I mean, maybe it's worse than Assad. So what are we doing? Why are we involved? We have to get rid of ISIS, very importantly. But I look at Assad, and Assad, to me, looks better than the other side. And, you know, this has happened before. We back a certain side, and that side turns out to be a total catastrophe. Russia likes Assad seemingly a lot. Let them worry about ISIS. Let them fight it out.
So just, I felt like a lot of signal there. That was 2015. He's talking about the Russians and Assad maybe not being the bad guys. And more to the point, he's saying in one sentence, he says it's ISIS that Assad is fighting. In another sentence, he says, we don't even know who these people are. It's probably ISIS. And what did Donald Trump say for years before he became president? Barack Obama funded ISIS or founded ISIS. So he's telling them in that clip, in my personal opinion, that we know that Assad is a good guy and that you are trying to overthrow him and that the Russians are stopping you. and that when I get into power, I am going to help Putin stop you. That's exactly what happened when Trump got into power. The Russians and the Americans basically administered a pincer move on ISIS, and I would just suggest that something very similar happened a couple of months ago with Assad fleeing to Moscow and U.S. Central Command under Joe Biden bombing ISIS as a result.
Okay, I lied. I was checked out.
Sorry. It's just,
but it's a good point. You made a good point. Should we do boosts?
Hey, man. We got ADC.
And sorry, I will say the reason I checked out is because I had to get that video for our closing that you were.
That's fine.
In the private chat. I had to save that thing.
Good. I didn't even watch the whole thing yet. I saved it. Saved myself.
But I had to download it, so we're ready.
ADC thought this day would never come. Last Wednesday, the Brightsurrection and Ghost Sovereign Alliance overthrew John. The beginning of a new golden age, or is John literally entering a devolution phase with plans for reconstitution later?
Oh, interesting. Oh, because you guys did the stream last time?
Mm-hmm.
I just like tease them, let them feel like they have some control and power every now and then. But back this time.
Yeah, thank you. Lionheart, $50. Hey guys, welcome back. John, I know this has been an issue of yours as well as mine ever since 2020, but when was the last time you heard anyone in the administration, including Trump, mention diving into the 20 election shenanigans?
Trump's mentioned it on a few interviews. Anytime it gets brought up, like Brett Baier after the Super Bowl or during the Super Bowl, whatever that was, and he's like, oh, you know, the 2020 election, Kamala Harris, all these things, 2024. And he talked about how fake it was. But I guess that wasn't necessarily about the 2020 election. So that's a good point. I don't know if I've heard specifically people from the administration talking about 2020, other than all the Senate hearings when all the senators were asking, like, do you think the election was stolen in 2020? Russ Vought was like, yes. Everybody else was like, Joe Biden was sworn in as president, but they would not comment on whether it was stolen. It was interesting.
Bunch of pussies. JLC Kraus, $50. As a former elementary school library assistant, I think about online info sources for kids, how easy it is to stealth edit and manipulate the historical record. Does Badlands preserve content for future generations? Are you archiving on and offline? Very important.
You're talking about like our videos?
All our shows.
Well, all our videos
Somebody
are
put them all in a bunker.
All our videos are on Rumble and like they're saved. I mean, they're on whatever platforms we stream to. They're there for pretty much forever. Typically with all the shows I'm on, I usually download them all and put them in the date that they aired, like in my folders that I have. So when I clip stuff out, but I don't know if everybody does that. But I mean, all the ones who care about watching anyway are mine. So yeah, they're all saved.
John, are you aware that the United States government, speaking of strategic reserves, has 1.4 billion pounds of cheese?
That's cool.
So
why
are we going to sell cheese to buy Bitcoin? Or are we going to sell Bitcoin
who's gonna
to buy more
buy
cheese?
Who's going to buy that cheese though?
It's grossing me out. Are those markings on the cheese or mold on? They look like markings, maybe.
I don't know, but why would, like, how long is that stuff? Okay, I know nothing about how cheese works. I know nothing about preserving cheese. Like, in this
You
stuff
made
just
fun
sit
of
there
me
for
months ago for not knowing about the red wax on cheese.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of cheese that is.
Gouda.
That's right. Yeah, Gouda.
Mhm.
Whatever.
What kind of cheese are we saving in these vaults?
Well, and how long does it last? Like,
Right.
can we
Is
just
cheese
keep this
permanent?
forever?
I guess.
That doesn't seem right.
Feels like we shouldn't be eating stuff like this.
I don't know. Maybe this is why we have our RFK in there. He's going to get rid of our
Right.
strategic cheese stockpile.
Kraft macaroni and cheese stockpile, I think is anyway. And then Donna All Angle sent $5 over. Would love for you to come back to Vegas again and make it a yearly stop. John, make sure you wear that sexy pink blazer. BB, hope Mrs. Bright liked her scarf and let her know she did an amazing job. Thank you, Donna. I didn't know it was a scarf, but I did pull it out of my backpack when I got home and I said, I don't know what that is. Maybe it's like a scarf or something. So now I know that it was a scarf, and thank you, because yes, she did like it.
I just want to say, I agree that the blazer was sexy, but I disagree on the color. I think it was more of a salmon than a pink. And some people even said it was red with little blue and white little things in there. So it was red, white, and blue, depending how you looked at it. But thank you.
I don't know, man.
And yeah,
I've
we
never
will go
been.
back to Vegas eventually. We are
If we
kind of
make
looking for our
everything an
hubs,
annual
right?
Stop, we'll be going like 10.
Well, what was that?
If we go back to every place annually, we'll have like 10 carts.
No, I mean,
a
I think
year.
the goal with the GARTs is to find like, this is the way I envision it, but this might change. But it's to do like find our 4 key hubs, like in 4 good parts of the country, and those are the places we go each year.
Okay.
But I also like kind of going around, but we just got to find our hubs, and then we're exploring some options for some smaller scale things between events. So we'll let you guys know. We'll fill you in.
Yeah, we could have like 1 floating date, or we could have like 2 that float and 2 that are the same.
Yeah, Deadwood, I'm like pretty set on that being like the go-to.
Yeah, that's
every
pretty
time.
cool. On my birthday every year.
And the Vegas venue, man, that was just so good. Like it'd be hard to top that place, I think. But anyway.
That's all the booze.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Let's do. I already see a great comment from Kitsko. I can't wait to get there. 12 Indie Boy. Nice to see you, Ty. I'm not sure what was more impressive at Guard Vegas, was it Ghost dancing or sleeping? The memes. Excited to see everyone at Guard 8 soon, even BB. Can't wait to see you again soon.
I'm going to talk to that guy.
Ty. Oh, they're great.
I told him Baby Bright's already bigger than him.
That's very rude. Making fun of his height. How dare you? K0 Kelly says, hey, BB, did Baby Bright enjoy his books?
He can't read yet, but yes, thank you for the books. That was much appreciated. And I will thank them on the narrative on Sunday night. But a couple people gave us cards that were very, very nice. And yeah, much appreciated.
So speaking of reading, my son came home from school today. Like they do weekly mass, at their school. And usually they have like students in the upper grades go up there and like read a passage as part of the mass. And he comes home, he's like, yeah, so Dad, I volunteered to read in front of the school. And I was like, you did? That just kind of seems like out of character. Like he's, I don't know how to describe it. Like he's not afraid to go to church by himself, but he always like wants me to go to church with him. So I do, but it just seems like very out of character for him to want to get up and like stand in front of the church and read like a little passage. It's like, did you know that you were signing up for? It's like, no, the teacher just asked a question. I wasn't paying attention, but I raised my hand because I saw my friend raise his hand. And so I got signed up to read in front of the school. I thought it was just really funny. Now he's stuck doing it. So that'll be next week. Can't wait. Kitsko says,
read any worse than you, so
he's probably a better reader than me, honestly. Yeah. Like, yeah, kid can read. I can't.
Mine times, he has an uncanny ability to time his wake up as I'm getting off a show.
She's just waking him up.
Probably.
That's what I would do. Kitsko, who I believe we saw at Guard Vegas. It's nice to see you again, but this is a great comment. Ass eating must be a New England thing. RFK Jr. and now BB.
I think it is.
I think it is.
Don't call us savages for nothing. It's dirty water up here.
Wedge Gravy. I'm late to the show. Watch this. Guy explains how gold will end the Fed according to Q. Mind blown. If we have any. We don't even know if we have any.
It's Mike Maloney, and
I don't know who Mike Maloney is.
He's a guy who sells gold for a living.
Ah.
Which is fine. He might be correct as well. He does buy Bitcoin too, though. It's interesting.
But if you're going to buy gold, you buy it from Badlands. That's the thing. Badlandsgold.com. 2812.
Badlandscheese.com coming soon.
Badlands cheese.
Those are the big three: gold, Bitcoin, cheese.
I love it.
That's what we need.
I'm all in. 2812 VPJ. Guys, we know it's all about the Great Awakening. It's about the normies. The entire movement is this. I think you're right.
Just create our own country. Sans normies.
Create the country. Be the country you want to be in the world. Something.
Right.
Barb Naylor, do you all think that what Doge has done with exposing the fraud in the Social Security Administration is going to play a part in the exposure of fake elections? Could help.
Could be a backdoor into that. It could be one of many.
You and your backdoors.
Yeah.
What is with you tonight?
Tagging, backdoors, all kinds of stuff.
ZBM, there's also a lot of normies in Europe and around the world who have no clue what's happening here, and they're watching us.
Europe's getting interesting.
Yeah, Micro Toolmaker with $117. Thank you, as usual. Where we go one, we go all. Appreciate you, sir. Keith O'Higgins, Newsom gave Bannon the respect that Poole and Charlie Kirk couldn't as young influencers. Gavin knew Bannon has the receipts, has been to federal prison, and can toss a salad. We met Keith O'Higgins in Vegas, by the way. I'm not gonna lie, like he
exactly what you
is exactly what I thought he would be in person, and I mean that as like a compliment.
If you were to just feed AI his rants
And tell it to draw Keith O'Higgins,
it would have been.
That's what showed up at the Ahern. Yep.
Yep.
Spot on. But yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you, Keith. Kristen Noel. First in-person Guard Vegas was amazing. I vote for another at Ahern. Great meeting you both. I plan on going to Quinny's this summer. SoCal Kristen. Yes, we are going to do another Badlanders meetup at Quinny's. It was great meeting you as well. She has some ties to North Dakota. She killed it on the karaoke as well. So pleasure meeting you, Kristen.
Oh yeah. I didn't recognize the picture.
Yeah. Gabriel Blow. Sorry, John, but BB's recent Substack, I can do this all day long, may just be his best ever. Kudos to the new dad.
Thank you. I didn't think it was my best ever. And it's titled I Can Do This All Day, not all day long.
And I mean, saying one of his Substacks is his best ever, it's really not saying that much, right?
It's true.
Just kidding. Wedge Gravy, is it coincidental that the market is crashing at the same time Trump is turning off the spigot?
Nope.
I think the market's crashing because people are like, well, at least the story they're telling in the media is that everybody's worried about what these tariffs are going to do. Like everybody's scared. Trump's scaring people by his comments.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that's actually another interesting angle is, are market makers unmaking the market in order to psyop people into exactly that? Like that's another angle to it. Are they, pulling out money to create the appearance of a crash or a recession to peg it on Trump?
Yep. They're probably going to do something that has to do with pegging, right?
Yep, exactly.
By the way, chat, we forgot, but if you could do us a big favor and hit that thumbs up on whatever platform you're watching on, that would be greatly appreciated. 1027JS, thanks, guys. Thank you, Joe. Another North Dakota connection. CJ Hurley, 1961 for $200.
Damn.
Very generous.
Thanks,
Thank you.
CJ.
The bond and dollars are going to be split to external and internal markets. Thus, the external revenue service Bitcoin is the asset, XRP is the transaction system, and stablecoins. That very well could be the case. I have no idea what the future plan is, what Trump's plan is. It's all speculation. All I'm saying is if you read the executive order for yourself, you will see a clear delineation between Bitcoin and everything else.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying. Vegas Deplorable met this guy at Guard. He was great. Him and his wife were awesome.
Oh, yeah. Talked to him a bunch.
Yep. Great to finally meet you guys in Vegas. As always, you guys put out great content, and we'll always tune in. Gart Vegas 2.0, let's go. We'll be back.
A little biased.
It was funny, though. I told him, I was like, I'm pretty sure you're the reason we went to Vegas because you would like nonstop give rants for Vegas. He's like, yeah, I stopped doing it once you guys announced you were doing one there.
Damn.
So maybe we should hold off a little bit.
Right.
Doing one next week. It's more rants from Vegas Deplorable. Just kidding, man. No, it was great meeting you. Buster Duster Cars, XRP will be the CBDCs and Bitcoin will not. The gold reserve is pegged to the 1972 price at $42 troy ounce.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what the Cynthia Lummis bill is saying. We have however many billions of $42 gold certificates that can be legally revalued to the current monetary price of gold. Even though they're claims on gold.
Interesting.
And then sold. Now, the game theory aspect of that bill is that if you're looking at adversaries and central banks, what do central banks hold to back or to backstop themselves? They hold gold reserves. So Cynthia Lummis is saying you can demonetize gold, which would demonetize the banks.
Hold on the Fed.
Well, that's G-Money's theory, but we'll see. And all their good point there. Just a random little note is the XRP guys are the ones who have been consulting with central banks around the world to help them with their central bank digital currencies.
Yeah.
And they donated to the Kamala campaign.
Keith O'Higgins, Facts don't care about your feelings unless your feelings are about Israel. Love it, man. Patrick J17, I put all my money in silver, gold, and Bitcoin with a $300 gamble on XRP. It's $1,200 now. I personally think silver is going to be the big boom. They're coming out with silver batteries issues and everything. Yeah.
I don't think this stuff is a zero sum. I think that there's going to be plenty of winners.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one thing.
I have XRP too, guys. Just saying. I don't even like getting into the debates over which is which or the details or any of that anymore because it's all so annoying to me. We're at the point where Trump put something out that I can look at and point to and be like, right now Trump is signaling this. Until that changes, like that's where I'm at. Patrick J, I already read that one. James Claim, I love G Money. Here's $10 in support of him. We'll tell him you said hi. Patrick J17, here's $5 for G Money. I'm pretty sure I dealt dice to him at the Trop before October 1 Mandalay Bay. Interesting. But you guys do know that like the rants you give on the show you give them get split amongst the hosts on that show.
Yeah.
They don't.
And rants to G Money on his show got sent to us too.
Yeah. If you like G Money, I encourage you to watch a show and give him rants. But yeah, we appreciate the support. B1 Car, Rosie O'Donnell moved to Ireland today. Yeah, talked about that on my show this morning too. She actually moved like on January 15th. She just announced it today. She's been there for a couple months. Melindy, has Colorado Springs been considered for a GART or perhaps Oklahoma City? We had a list of
Ash
places.
has not done a good job of selling us on Colorado.
Yeah.
Although I have been there and it's pretty, but it's very gay.
They do have a casino town there. The
reason John wants to go back to Deadwood is because he won cash on the slots there, and he thinks he's just going to do it every time. Degenerate.
Well, I mean,
you're like, that's entirely correct.
Entirely correct. And I'm not even going to tell.
If you're near him, though, that means your bar tab gets taken care of while he's winning. So I'm okay with it.
I will say this, okay? I came out ahead in Vegas too, and it was. So we went to Fremont. So now we're done with rants. We went to like Fremont or whatever. It's like really the only time we actually like went out and gambled. I was only out for like an hour maybe because it was the last night. I was so tired and I had to get up at 4 a.m. the next morning to get to the airport. And so we just sat down and played blackjack, and it's blackjack with all the weird games. I was with Brad and Brian, and we were out with a bunch of people. Not a bunch, I guess like 10 of us. And I lost. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm getting out of here. So I left. And okay, this is like the first weekend of like 5 times in a row, like over the course of the last like 5 years that I've been out gambling, and I came away down money, right? Because at the airport, got there super early for a 6 a.m. flight, right? I was there with like an hour waiting, and they have slot machines in the airport. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go put $50
This is
in.
my chance, right? Well, that's what you do, right? You always try to chase the bet. If you're down, you keep chasing.
Yeah, but no, this is just like $50. I had to do it, and it paid off.
Nice.
I'm back. I'm still on my streak of coming out ahead. Did
you get like a jackpot? Are you holding out on us?
No, I won like $1,000. Like I put in $50, won like 1,000. So
that's crazy.
It was.
See, kids, all you need to do is gamble.
Yeah, I should have just put all the GART money. If they would have had a casino at the venue, would have doubled our revenue. But whatever.
So 3 years of doing this, and for you longer, and all the times that the deep state has tried to take down this company, and they failed. But this last exchange, they're gonna get us.
Maybe.
They'll be like, they endorsed gambling to children.
No.
Not financial advice, people. Nothing
No,
we
not at
say
all.
is financial advice.
And by the way, Deadwood is a gambling town, but the reason I love it is because of the scenery and everything else to do in Deadwood. It's just so freaking awesome. I think Deadwood's going to end up being our biggest guard this year.
I think so too.
Because everybody that was
There was
there last time is
FOMO.
like, I'm going back. And then everybody that wasn't there and heard about it is like, I have to go to that one. I've heard so many people say, I don't think I'm going to make it to a GART until, Deadwood. So can't wait for Deadwood.
It was the perfect mix of not just awesome stuff to do in the town, and we like literally took it over. It feels like it's a Badlands town.
Yeah.
But you can also go to Mount Rushmore. There's beautiful scenery. Like, it was good. It was a good call. So
yeah, it was. And I won money. So it was just all around great time. But what we got to do, we'll talk about it off air. Anyway, guys, we're going to sign off. We're going to end with
a couple rants came in at the end here. Kitsko sent $5 over. I was there, John Vegas. I gave you the F spinner.
Oh, yeah.
Them. And then
I got
JK
that.
Nerdy.
I got that in my coat pocket. Thank you for reminding me. That's in my coat pocket. Upstairs in my closet.
Said, where were your glasses?
They were in my backpack, not in the place where they should have been in my backpack. But I found them. So Monday Night Basis Conspiracies, I did like this Devo recap show. And I did like 20-minute clip from each of the panels, including the Q&A.
GART recap, you meant.
Yeah, GART recap. And I was like, it was just bad. I was like falling asleep, but I didn't have my glasses. I couldn't find them. Didn't have them like all weekend, but I found them during that show. When I was falling, I was like, I need to get up and go find my glasses so I don't fall asleep. Anyway, okay, we're gonna end with a video. I think it was Chris who sent this in our chat. I haven't watched the full thing either.
It's real. This is real, by the way. This is real footage that Badlands obtained exclusively. Chris obtained this through his contacts.
Yep. So hope you guys enjoy.
Alliance before.
Hope you guys enjoy. Hit that thumbs up, and I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Daily Herald. I don't know when they'll see you again.
Sunday night.
Sunday. There you go. Catch you all later.
There comes a time when we heed a certain call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying, oh, it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We can go on, pretending day by day that someone somewhere will soon make a change. We are all a part of God's great big family, and the truth, you know, love is all we need. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There is a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, we make a better day, just you and me. Well, send them your heart, so they know that someone cares. And the lives will be stronger and free, as God has shown us by turning stone to bread. And so we all must lend a helping hand. We are the world, we are the children, we are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving. There's a choice we're making, we're saving our own lives. It's true, we make a better day, just you and me. We're down and out, and there seems no hope at all. But if you just believe, there's no way we can fall.
Well, let's realize, oh, that a change can only come when we
stand together as one.